Hey, and welcome back to my channel. I am super excited because today we have something really special for you. I am joined by Brandon Mulrenin, who is going to share a bunch of really great tips on something that's super important, and that is standing out from the crowd when it comes to marketing for FSBOs. Now, Brandon is the guy to talk about when it comes to FSBO marketing, so I am super excited to hear what he's got to say. Hey, Brandon, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, well, Stefanie, thanks for having me. I'm excited to share some of this stuff with your audience.
Yeah, for sure. So what I love about what you share is you have a completely different approach to FSBO marketing than I've seen before. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's important for people watching this is that traditional real estate trainers, gurus, and the famous people, right? They have been teaching the real estate agents, us, for years on communicating with a for sale by owner, Stefanie, in a way that tries to convince them that selling on their own is a bad or a bad idea, and that listing it with an agent is a better idea. Now, I bought into that for a long time, and for the first 10 years of my career. And if you've ever marketed or prospected to for sale by owners, you would know that that causes a lot of friction between agents and for sale by owners. Thus, why most agents don't like going after for sale by owners. They think it's very frustrating. They think for sale by owners are, just hard to deal with. Until about 6 years ago, I came up with a strategy now that I call reverse selling, that I'd be happy to kind of walk your audience through. But that's the first thing, is getting out of this mindset that we are somehow going to use some magical script that we found on YouTube and convince people that selling their house, saving money off commission is stupid, and that listing it with an agent is a better idea. Even though it may be the best thing for somebody, to convince somebody of that is very difficult. The same way I relate to all of my students, Stefanie, and that is trying to convince somebody when it comes to religion or politics. Very, very difficult thing to do.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think that it always kind of makes them wonder, like, well, why are they trying to convince me in this way? It's not very authentic.
That's exactly right. So I can kind of walk you through what the process looks like if you'd like.
Yeah, take us through it.
Awesome. All right. So I teach a bunch of different ways on how to communicate with for sale by owners. It's not all just telephone prospecting. We do a lot of direct mail marketing. We do a lot of Facebook targeted ads to for sale by owners. But the approach is this. There are 4 things specifically. Number 1, what I teach and what I do is communicating with a for sale by owner in such a way on that first contact that allows me, Stefanie, to get face to face. Here's the big aha that I realized about 6 years ago. What happened was, as I was communicating with these for sale by owners, they would be telling me things over the phone like, I'm never going to pay a commission. I've got somebody I'm going to deal with if I end up listing it with an agent. And I was taught, Stefanie, to use like these fancy objection handlers. Like, hey, just go and try to overcome their objection. Use high pressure sales tactics to try to, overcome what they're saying and go get the listing, right? Well, what I realized is what people say over the phone versus what they say face to face was a completely different interaction. So I experimented 6 years ago and I said, well, what if I just stayed agreeable on this first conversation to where someone said, hey, you know what, Stefanie, I'm never going to list my house. And then I turned around and said, I get it. In this market, you shouldn't have to list your house. You probably won't have any trouble selling it on your own. And lo and behold, the for sale by owner says, wait, what? You're not going to argue with me like all these other realtors are doing? And then I focused on getting a face-to-face FSBO preview appointment. So the whole goal of number 1 is to stay in a position that is contribution-based, focused on the relationship, and focused on getting face-to-face. Step 2 is once we get to that face-to-face, it's all about human connection, right? Our goal at that for sale by owner preview appointment is to connect with the for sale by owner, to provide them valuable information to help them. This is where your audience is going to hopefully just hang in there, guys. Let me get to the whole thing and it'll make sense. This is where you're going to help the for sale by owner sell on their own. Now, I know a lot of agents are like, what are you talking about? I've been, Tom Ferry told me to do the opposite for the last 20 years. Now you're telling me to help them sell on their own? Just watch what happens. So we are there where I teach a for sale by owner CMA presentation, a for sale by owner value proposition presentation. We get through all of this at the face-to-face preview until the point where we drop what I call the for sale by owner backup strategy. So Stefanie, if you were the for sale by owner, I would simply say, listen, based on everything we talked about today, I think that you're in good shape. I think that you owe it to yourself to try and sell the house on your own. In the event 30, 60, 90 days goes by, we just talked about it should only take you about 3 weeks to sell the home, right? And you say, yeah. Well, if 30, 60, 90 days from now, for some weird reason, you can't sell the property, would be the only time we would review this backup plan. Is that fair? And the for sale by owner says, man, that's more than fair. Thank you for not pressuring me. So that's the face-to-face appointment, okay? Now, we've set up now for step number 3, which is my for sale by owner follow-up system. This is where agents just dropping the ball left and right. Mm-hmm. So when we leave that face-to-face appointment, the way that we did, we talk about staying in communication with them on a week-to-week basis. So from a high level, my follow-up system is simple. It's not easy. So we do a follow-up phone call every Monday. On Tuesday, we send out a direct mail piece. Wednesday, the for sale by owners get a video email. Thursday is they're getting, we do a custom audience Facebook ad to our entire email database of for sale by owners. And then Friday, they get a text message. This happens over the course of 1 to 8 weeks. Now, here's the secret for your audience. Every real estate agent would agree with what I'm about to say, and that is this. What are the likelihood of a for sale by owner listing their home with a realtor on the first day they put their house up for sale? Hardly any, right? Almost zero. Right. Yet, every time I ask that question, Stefanie, here's the interesting part. Every time a realtor says, well, 0%, well, why is it that every real estate agent is trying to convince them to list on day one, even though subconsciously they know they're not going to? It's just what they're being taught. So wouldn't it only make sense to not get in our own way, to help them sell on their own? Because here's what we know. We know that the majority of for sale by owners aren't going to sell on their own. And if they do, that's okay. But for the ones that don't, we become the obvious choice. We've been following up over time, never pressuring them, leading with contribution, building a relationship so that in 6 weeks, after they've been hammered by all these agents, they've gotten no showings, they've got no real offers, they say, you know what, Brandon, can you just come list my property? And that brings me to step number 4. Step number 4 is what I call the reverse listing consultation system. And so when we go there, it's very simple because the way that we communicate is all question-based, leading people to their own destiny through questioning, not selling. And so we have sellers signing contracts over 80% of the time and listing the property at a price that will cause it to sell and agreeing to adjust the price if it doesn't without us ever having to say anything. So that's kind of a high-level 4-step system.
That is crazy. And for an 80% conversion rate using that system, that's like unheard of when it comes to FSBO marketing. And what I really love about your process, Brandon, is it's really in alignment with what I share with my students on this and through the videos on this channel, which is leading with contribution and putting people in real connection first, because I think that real estate agents can lose sight of the fact that real estate was built on one thing, and it was real people and real relationships. And when you focus on nurturing that relationship through bringing value and contribution and, you know, people over profit, I guess you could say,
Right.
then you're going to win every time. It makes complete sense to me.
Yeah, well, here's, you know, and yeah, you're exactly right. And I agree. You and I see things so similar. And the thing that helps real estate agents understand what we're trying to teach them is 30 or 60 days is going to go by no matter what, right? And so wouldn't it only make sense that instead of pressuring people and losing prospects left and right, that you lead through contribution, you provide valuable content, you follow up with a purpose, that over that course of time, if you do this right, these people will be inspired to do business with you versus you trying to pressure it. And I think what people have to do, Stefanie, is detach from the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
They have to get out of like, I've got to make the sale today. No, 60 days is going to go by. You're going to be just fine. If you can do this right, you can build a nice pipeline. You'll start getting deals easily. But stop getting out of this mindset of like calling a stranger out of the blue one time, asking and proposing to them on the first date and thinking people are going to say yes. We got to get out of that mindset.
I could not agree more. It's playing the long game.
That's
And
right.
and I feel like every other industry understands this, but in real estate, when we have a slightly longer sales cycle, it can become very fearful when you're not closing deals immediately. So I think I'm in total agreement. One thing that I really want to ask you is how this process is working in times of crisis for you. So you said that you've been doing this process for about 6 years now. I'm sure that you've seen some changes in the market, changes in the economy, changes in consumer interest. And then of course, even like things like natural disasters or like right now, the pandemic with the coronavirus that we're experiencing. So how are you able to modify that approach and make sure that it's relevant all of the time and it continues to help agents grow their business no matter what conditions they're operating in?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So a couple of things is first off, I think for me, I have a belief that real estate agents provide a phenomenal service to the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
And I also believe that instead of a real estate agent going out there trying to help the world, that they should niche down. They should really, really focus on specific target audiences so that they can, when they're communicating and they offer, you know, special programs for specific demographics, it's a lot more effective. And I know that's what you teach too, and I couldn't agree more. So with that being said, you know, I always look at, okay, who are the people that are in need, that are always going to be in need to selling a home? Well, here's what I focus on. I focus on my number one lead source is absentee owners, not FSBOs. We'll talk about that in a second. FSBOs for rent by owners,
Mm-hmm.
people going through a divorce, and new and old expired listings. Those are like my 5 top lead sources. Now, I've mastered those lead sources. So now, as it relates to what we're dealing with right now, like I'm in Michigan, there's a stay-at-home order. What we've been doing, Stefanie, is instead of the face-to-face appointment, we've been scheduling Zoom conferences just like this one.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I'm trying to help all the agents across the country get comfortable with, because for the consumer, this interaction can be as impactful as if we were across the table from each other, because they're not used to it. No, you know, you said something a minute ago, every other real estate or every other industry operates this way. Like if every other industry except for real estate, you know, if you're in the tech world or it doesn't matter, any corporate world, it's very normal to hop on a Zoom conference. And so I think you're going to find that in real estate, this becomes more common. And so now we're taking our initial approach of contact and we're shifting that to a Zoom conference. And here's the cool thing, Steph, is it's allowing my students and me and agents at my company to scale our business because we don't have to go drive as much. We could do a lot more presentations through a video conferencing platform like Zoom rather than drive all over the city having all these face-to-face appointments.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good point, because that's one of my biggest pet peeves as a real estate agent is the amount of time that you can waste literally just in the car when you are nailed down to a steering wheel, not able to do anything else at that time.
Yeah, well, you know what's funny is like, I think real estate agents watching this will really get a lot out of what I'm about to say. And that is, anytime we purchase anything in the real estate space, which we're being sold to all the time from all angles, they always get us on some type of like screen share or, what the real estate agent's very comfortable with is getting a calendar invite from a company, right, that sits on their calendar. Real estate agents need to start doing that. And then doing some type of video screen sharing or a conference like this. Real estate agents are very used to being communicated that way. We have to now communicate that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's, if anything, this experience over the last few weeks in the US and the world, I think everybody's understanding the enormity of what it means to adapt, and to find creative solutions. So I totally get that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you want to share regarding that, or anything else regarding your system, or any last thoughts that you want to leave my audience with?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, as the world continues to evolve, we have to look at the sales industry differently and look at ourselves as more of a consultant or an advisor, and stop selling and start serving the consumer from a place of contribution, like we talked about a few times, and come from a place of serving and servant leadership versus what can I get out of it. Now, I call that reverse selling, which I've made it my life's mission to continue working on that. But I think that real estate agents and any sales industry has to focus on that in the new world. If they're going to, continue to build their business, they've got to get out of this mindset of taking, and we got to start giving more.
Yep, I could not agree more. Awesome. Well, this was so value-packed, so good, Brandon. I want to thank you so much for your time today. And guys, you have to follow Brandon. He has such amazing content that he gives out for free beyond even the most amazing programs that he offers for sale by owner marketing. So you definitely have to check him out. Brandon, where can people find you?
Yeah, 2 places. You can go to FSBOdomination.com, get more information about our training program, or they can go check me out on YouTube.
Awesome. And then are you also on Instagram that I see?
I am on Instagram. Okay. I'm trying to grow that more. I'm struggling there. Hopefully you can help me more with that. But yeah, you can also find me on Instagram. I'm doing almost a daily training video, almost every single day, a training video for realtors on my Instagram as well.
I've noticed that, and they are so, so good. So guys, I'll be sure to have all of Brandon's contact information down below, including links to all of the resources that he just mentioned. And I want to thank you again, Brandon, for joining me and sharing all of this value with my audience. Really, really happy to have you, and hopefully we can do it again sometime.
I would be honored, and I thank you so much. And you keep doing your thing. I keep following you. You teach me something every day, so thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Be well. And guys, be sure to hit subscribe to this channel if you have not, if you want to continue seeing awesome content just like this. Thanks. And until next time, keep on crushing it.